All right, Dota 2 fans, welcome back. We saw the ESL One Hamburg NA qualifier debut of the Immortals squad, formerly MVP Phoenix, a while back. Split up, this past season and didn't fare all that well at TI. So happy to see the love story back together. And in any case, they're up against some household NA names as well in Brax and Clairvoyance. We'll see how they fare in the game 2. Immortals up 1-0. MRP and Franz here to bring you the action.
I mean, a lot could be said that all of the players on Immortals made it to TI, although on different teams. They didn't place very well, but even making it there says a lot about these players. I mean, they're all TI capable players, and I'm sure that they are stronger now with the collective experience that they have gained. And then now they have to conquer the battlefield that is North America and Dota.
It's it'll be very interesting to see how they fare coming from a region where they had to kind of hop between SEA, sometimes playing in China, sometimes playing in Europe. So now with, I guess, the stability of being able to scrim and practice these teams in a region that, for a long time we've wanted to say is up and coming, but really is one of the most, realistically competitive regions in the world at the time being, with some of the top talent. So alongside EG Immortals, we'll see if they prove to be a contender. Hard to root for them in this game, though, as they open up with the first pick, Lich.
Yep. I mean, the Lich is the Lich. You just ignore the lane that the Lich is in, because nothing's going to happen there. And nothing's going to happen with the hero that the Lich is against, at least for the first 10 minutes. So, nice for the cameraman, right? I don't think the Lich usually gets kills in their lane.
Seen a lot of this today. I think this is seventh game of the day, and we've seen Jakiro in every single game thus far. So Iceberg will go back. We've definitely seen it. Yeah, it was in the last game. It was in it was in the three of the second series, all 3 games. So we maybe didn't see it in the Navi series.
I've always been a fan of the Jakiro hero, but I do think he's really hit or miss. I think you have to play him like a lane enforcer, almost like an ogre or something, and then you have to have the scenario where he's actually able to liquid fire towers, because Ice Path early on is quite mediocre. It doesn't do damage. It's most of the time, or sometimes it's unreliable, and it's just not. You don't want to rely on Jakiro as an initiator. So I think Jakiro definitely excels in games where he's actually able to help his team fight and take towers.
We'll see if Immortal fall into kind of the same trap that Iceberg did in the previous game, picking Night Stalker into tanky supporting role heroes. Jakiro already in the opening. There's potential for Clockwork to be in the 4 position. We've seen it kind of flex between 4 and 3, and maybe even more commonly in the 4. So Clairvoyance going to open up with kind of a couple of tanky heroes in the supporting cast. Lich, Night Stalker, certainly, though, the Ice Armor can facilitate aggression. A lot of spam coming out from the Lich can maybe keep the lanes at low enough HP for the Night Stalker to find an opening.
I think a lot of teams, I think the rationale behind the Night Stalker pick is a lot of people think that Night Stalker is good against Clockwork for 2 reasons. First of all, you can fly out of the cogs, and you also limit the amount of vision that Clockwork has, so it makes it a lot harder for Clockwork to initiate. Although you still have the Rocket Flare, you don't have that perfect initiation on like the target you're aiming for, and so that makes Night Stalker good against Clockwork in the mid game. In the early game, however, I have to say that Clockwork's probably better at the first couple of minutes, just because Cogs and Battery Assault are so effective for kills in the early game.
Necrophos ban going to come out from Immortals, as the Lifestealer ban is going to come out from Iceberg.
Lifestealer is a hero that can lane against Clockwork well. Whether or not Lifestealer does well against Clockwork is a different question. I think Lifestealer in the mid game sometimes suffers against Clockwork, especially if the clock picks up something like a Force Staff. So you hook the Lifestealer, cog him
leave him in the cogs,
get out, and like fight's done, right? But a bit of an interesting ban there. See what Iceberg look to pick up for their 3rd pick. They still need pretty much 3 cores. unless this Clockwork is a off lane, but that is unlikely.
Puck.
Yeah, with the puck pickup, perhaps becomes even less likely. Puck could always go towards the mid lane, and is flexible enough to pick up in this third slot. Death Prophet is an interesting one. This is a very MVP hero, especially with the ice armor to back her, the Night Stalker to front line. So I do like this pick for Immortals. Maybe it tips their hand a slight bit early. We'll see what Iceberg concocts in order to punish it.
It just feels like a nice pick because there's not an incredible amount of burst damage on Iceberg, and you need burst damage to take care of the Death Prophet. And so even if Iceberg picks something, they have to pick a core, obviously, that does a lot of burst damage to Death Prophet. Immortals still have 2 picks to counter pick it, so bit of an interesting pick, but I think it works so far. The only problem is Death Prophet, I feel, isn't a hero that catches up on her own. If her team helps her take towers,
Yeah,
or helps make space for her, she can catch up. But if you somehow win like at least 1.5 lanes, the Death Prophet can sort of suffer.
So you talked about burst damage. This is in kind of a different form with the early right clicks coming out from the familiars. I mean, we assume this is a one position Visage into the ice armor. Maybe not the absolute best matchup, but definitely gives them a little bit more potential to bring down the DP, and you have kind of a guaranteed familiar stun with either the cogs or the coil, so it should help out the Visage in that respect.
Yeah, the Visage provides a ton of burst damage. There is a little bit of a weakness for Iceberg's lineup in that Immortals aren't obligated to fight into Iceberg. Like they can get, like they don't have to 5-man into Iceberg, because Iceberg's tower push it's good, but Iceberg have to be afraid of getting kind of flanked by Chain Frost and Night Stalker right now, because I feel like Jakiro and Visage, they don't have any mobility on those 2 heroes, so they can get caught out really easily. But the same could be said about Immortals. Like if the Lich or Death Prophet get caught out of position, then it's kind of bad news, especially when you have a hero like Visage that provides so much burst damage. I think what I meant to say is Iceberg don't have a frontliner right now.
Right.
I think that's their issue. There's no obvious way for them to start their fights.
Mm-hmm. I guess part of that depends on the success or failure of this Clockwork and also already kind of feels like he doesn't have many targets to find kills, and he should be okay in lane. It remains to be seen how much in the way of experience. Enigma pick comes out for Immortals. You kind of touched upon not necessarily how stagnant this lineup is, but it does get difficult for them to push towers without being closely formed. So Enigma can certainly punish that. That is a little bit more frontline for this Death Prophet as well.
It gives Immortals a lot of extra team fight. They really didn't have a team fight ability other than Chain Frost, and I guess Death Prophet ult counts as well. But I think the one weakness I see in Immortals lineup right now is they're really cooldown dependent. So they're gonna want to make sure that whenever they expend their ultimates, that it's used well enough that Iceberg can't really capitalize on it. And so I think Iceberg, they could even consider something like a silencer on Iceberg, just to help counter the Enigma and the Lich. Yeah, a silencer would give them a really clear team fight timeline, which is like the Clockwork hooks, you follow up with the Dream Coil and then Silence, and then Immortals. At least until they get like BKBs and Greaves, they can't really react at all, because they're pretty much Immortals are completely dependent on spells right now for their damage.
Mm-hmm. All right, so 5th pick for Immortals impending here. They ban out the Medusa, and that gives them kind of the siege engine and the front line that you alluded to was missing. Now we find maybe a QO hero. I mean, it'd be very weird to see MP take the Death Prophet up to the safe lane. So Likely still going to be QL picking up that DP, but we have seen them swap roles. PA, what do you feel about the matchup here? I mean, I guess Nice versus the Visage familiars, but there's still a pretty decent amount of burst damage with the Soul Assumption and the Puck's toolkit to bring down the PA. Does she kind of rely on the DP, Night Stalker, and Enigma to be in the front line?
I think the PA is good. She doesn't really get kited super easily this game, but there's a lot of kite potential for her this game, especially if she doesn't have a BKB. You have Jakiro slow, you have Cogs, Battery Assault. Puck really doesn't die to PA all that often because all of PA's spells are kind of communicated. So unless you get first hit crit and killed, I think the Puck will be fine. And Visage is generally fine as well because PA doesn't really break the cloak charges all that quickly. And Weaver just increases Iceberg's ability to kite. So Iceberg, they do have a way to stop Black Hole all the time in this game, which is Clockwork Hook. So Forev's got to be a little bit worried about the angles at which he ults, or just the timings of his ultimates. Because realistically, the ultimate is the only way Black Hole's the only way they can reliably kill the Puck or Weaver as soon as the Puck or Weaver get like anti-silence items. There are 2 silences on Immortals, so they have to be worried about that. So I think Immortals, if they come out of the early game, I think they have a lot more push potential just because DP ult and being afraid of Black Hole is a big issue for Iceberg before Iceberg start picking up some key items, because the Weavers don't really... I don't think the Weaver can kill the Phantom Assassin reliably until an MKB, or at least maybe his team can help him deal with the PA. But I don't know if Weaver doesn't die to PA, but he won't kill the PA easily.
Does seem like a bit of a risky pick into the Crippling Fear as well as the AoE silence Death Prophet. So there are ways to kill this Weaver without Black Hole. But it helps them in the lanes. I mean, the weird thing I feel about it is it's not as if you're going to aggressive tri-lane into a Lich. So I don't know what the laning configuration is going to be. Craft overlay for the Radiant side. We'll see how that pans out.
I'm sure the Enigma is off lane pretty much all the time. And actually, there's something funny going on Immortals lineup. Actually, they have 2 heroes that deny creeps, so that's gonna passively put Iceberg at a deficit. So that'll be funny to watch. And
funny, you say, Franz? Funny.
It'll be funny. It'll be suffering, you know.
Yeah.
Sometimes you gotta enjoy the suffering. I mean, with Lich being
when it's not happening to you, it's definitely a lot more comical.
With Lich being picked this much, you gotta enjoy some people suffering, you know. Hey, look, my core hero is 3 levels behind the enemy Lich
and hasn't died at all. We'll see how this ends up panning out.
One of my lanes are being lost just from the Lich standing there eating my creeps, having my mana. Both teams, they have the Night Stalker Clockwork smoking out. Looks like Clockwork's going to play some sort of mid ward. Night Stalker.
So is this an off lane Visage at this point?
You know, it is Brax playing the Visage. It could be like a dual lane like Visage Jakiro, which is quite strong, except against Lich.
Right. You just throw the Lich there. I feel like they're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place with that 5th pick Weaver for Iceberg. I expected the Visage to be given a lot more, I don't know, importance in this lineup given the safe lane farm, but feels like they backtracked a bit off that early Visage pick.
The Weaver pick gave Iceberg sort of a way to move their supports around, since Weaver's quite an independent hero. Right. So the Clockwork and the Jakiro don't have to feel like they're stuck in the top lane all the time, especially when you're against a hero like Enigma. As soon as the Weaver's set up in the lane, they can probably move around a little bit more.
Check out this Radiant ward on the top side of the map. You can just turn the Radiant fog on. Bit of a blunder there. Sees absolutely nothing.
Could be intentional. Very unlikely that it is.
Just to block the camp, you mean?
Yeah. I think whenever you play against a Lich or Enigma, like someone that eats the creeps, or even like an Earthshaker Clockwork, anything that manipulates the creep wave, one way to counter it is to stack and pull. So if you block a camp like that, it makes it a little bit more difficult to deal with. Especially that card camp, you can pull it diagonally. That's like the easiest stack pull to do. It takes the least amount of time because it's the same timing, but you can still do it with a small camp. So Jakiro will be perfectly fine.
All right, the fabled 4-Rev Enigma going to take over towards the off lane, and yeah, it does look like Brax will be the one for his squad loading out in the off lane. See how this early game goes with 2 range creep denials at the Radiant's disposal.
Yeah, I mean, both drafts from both teams look a little bit wonky compared to what we've seen on the last couple of days, but should be an interesting match to see.
Clairvoyant's going to start off in the mid lane alongside his Brile Puck.
MP instantly won the lane by killing that range creep though, because now it's a lot harder for Clairvoyants to trade hits with them, so really well played by MP. I mean, blasting that range creep.
Gets the denial as well away from Brile. Top lane Febby taking a little bit of damage from jabs with that early level in the dual breath. QO being bodied a bit in this bottom lane, but as you mentioned, passively feels like they'll gain an advantage here. Presence of the Lich.
They're not obligated to do anything lane as long as the PA's not getting hurt too much, and she won't because she's got a Poor Shield, and Visage doesn't do particularly insane amounts of damage.
Feels like a big luxury for Immortals as well to be able to put Febby in lane here at the moment and allow Forev to just farm up the jungle. Febby finds himself 7 last hits on the Night Stalker, a couple of range creeps worth of experience there as well. So he's going to come into first nighttime at least level 3.
Yep. So that's a pretty cool laning setup for them. I mean, it definitely feels like Immortals are getting a lot more out of the laning stage, even passively, because they have 2 heroes that eat creeps, but that should put Immortals in a better position if the lanes theoretically break even and no kills occur.
Forev, speaking of, almost goes down there, but unable to continue to press forward was Charlie. Only level 2. Doesn't want to lose this entire wave worth of experience, and the Shikuchi cooldown a bit long for him to pursue forward, so Forever will be just fine. And they actually drag a wave of their own down towards the shrine, so they'll get a good chunk of experience out of that. Dubu trading hits with Brax, has the ice armor on. That's fun.
This is
gonna jump forward. Battery Assault is there for Clairvoyance, so he should be just fine.
This is classic Lich gameplay, by the way. Check out the PA Lich levels compared to the Visage levels.
Just barely eclipsing that level 2 mark is Brax right now.
Classic. I mean, there's no way the Visage comes back in this lane, right? It was like sort of a weird matchup to begin with, and now he's got a level deficit, so he's pretty much just stuck lost standing under his tower.
Over towards the mid lane goes Clairvoyance, but doesn't feel like there's much kill potential here. 2 levels already in the Spirit Siphon for MP. He's going to be a very tanky target. Actually, Clairvoyance jumping up the hill could just die here. Spirit Siphon is there, but the Cog bounce back will keep MP from dropping. That's a jaunt forward from Brile, and he does end up getting the salve off. Felt like a misclick. Well, they had the Jakiro nearby, and he actually is able to get the Waning Rift off. Illusory Orb is there as well. Febby could be in trouble and is going to drop here. One last right click from Brile.
He's just 200 IQ. He's just so much smarter than us. That was a bait all along.
Calculated from Brile in the mid lane. They knew they had the Jakiro nearby because he dropped down this ward not too long ago.
There's no way that was his thought process, right? It was just 200 IQ, like 10 steps ahead. Night Stalker's gonna chase me, and I'm gonna have Jakiro nearby.
Brax slowed up bottom lane, doing a little bit of right-clicking trading, and QO will probably be able to bring him down. Even with the Grave Chill, they get the slow off. The Void is there as well. QO has a point in the Phantom Strike, but won't even need it. And Dubu, one to pick up the kill on the Lich.
So Forev's doing pretty well in his lane.
Haste.
And I'm pretty sure bottom lane is winning now as well, just by the levels. So the only lane that Immortals have to worry about right now is making sure that their Death Prophet doesn't get hurt too much in her early game progress. Because I think Death Prophet's going to be like the vehicle that Immortals use to push towers later on.
Right. Everyone's rotating into it.
He's not naturally a tower header. Can't do it too safely. Especially when there's so much magic damage coming from Iceberg.
Right. MP is pretty much at parity with his laning counterpart in the way of experience, so doing decently in this early game. A lot of anti-Night Stalker vision in the mid lane for the Dire. They just had a ward on this side. Expire have one on the south side as well. Talked about that first night. We'll see what Febi's able to do with it. He is level 4 here, 5 minutes into the game, so a lot of kill potential, even on the Weaver, if they do have some detection, be able to get that silence off, but they don't between these two heroes. However, Malefice now rotating in. Charlie, he's expended. He gets Crippling Feared up. Void is there as well. Couple of right clicks. They won't be able to get him in time, and he will be able to make it off to the north. But Jabs has now used his, well, Ice Path at least, not the full toolkit. Febi in a little bit of trouble, is going to end up dropping more than likely. No, Charlie pressed back with the Malefice. Actually takes a lot of damage himself. 5 tangos though on the Weaver. Should be able to stay in lane. Mid lane though. Yeah, MP is going to be dropped to the combo of Bryle and Clairvoyance. And that's going to be the Dream Coil usage for Bryle, netting them that kill. So a big kill, as you mentioned. Going to be somewhat of a linchpin for this Radiant lineup is that Death Prophet. MP can't really afford to be behind here. Dubu going to run into Brax. Brax has the Grave Chill available, gets slowed up, and now Clairvoyance through with the Battery Soul. Doesn't have mana for Cogs at this point, though. Brax may just end up dropping, gets the stick, charges off. However, Dubu is going to drop, and that pesky Lich finally ends up falling here. A nice rotation though from Clairvoyance after having...
Puck's taking a lot of damage mid.
Phase shift out, but too fast is Febi's Night Stalker. They will find the revenge kill as Clairvoyance effective in the mid lane and the bottom lane, but as soon as he rotates out of mid, Febi there to make him pay.
This is a classic Enigma gameplay. You just farm as much as possible in the off lane. Just rotate between the jungle and the lane. Enigma's sort of like a... Enigma requires a surprising amount of farm to scale into the late game, since I think he is one of the strongest late game heroes in the game. Especially when you start getting tankier and tankier.
Can get to that early GPM talent as well, but it looks like he'll probably forego it for the CDR since he's going for a Midas. Febi has enough for the urn, just rotating around. Nighttime to expire shortly. He's going to get coiled up, flies down to the low ground. TV does not have the hook shot yet. He's only level 4. Ice Path will be there. Febi being bottled up by MP. Catches the dual breath though, and more than likely will end up dropping to the tick damage here. Dubu rotating through. Void from the high ground. Frost Nova is there as well. Soul Assumption finishes off the Night Stalker. Febi felt like he was dead regardless, so just wanted to contribute a spell there. Top lane, Charlie forces out Forev to TP to base. So overall, not bad for the Iceberg side.
I'm pretty much even in net worth right now, so Iceberg breaking even with Immortals. Really where they are behind though is EXP deficit. They're almost 2k EXP behind, which is about like 3 or 4 levels.
Jackpot. Flesh sustains, gold remains.
So clock's rotating around. I mean, these supports don't have level 6 yet. I mean, Lich is close, so as soon as Lich hits level 6, I think...
Oh, behind enemy lines, in trouble, but actually has tons of move speed right now. With the Windlace and the boots.
A golden thread.
So is able to make it away. MP, if he gets in range for a Spirit Siphon, that's going to be severely threatened Clockwork, if not a dead one. Now Jab's going to rotate in, though. They do have some good vision around this mid lane. It is daytime. Ryle perhaps thinking about jumping forward. Has an Arcane Rune, though, so free to just kind of spam out his spells here. Bring MP down, and now they'll rotate in. Febi in a pretty good position to counter-initiate here. Gets the Void off onto CV, but Clairvoyance will find him here. He silences up the Clockwork, but pretty much only going to save his Death Prod for now. But MP rotates back in. He could be in trouble now. Does get 2 Spirit Siphons off, but the rotation through from Brax. MP was free to kind of like make it out to the east, but Turns
gonna be a
back
lot of
towards the
turning
tier
in.
1. Ebby now TP's in. It is daytime. They get the Grave Chill off onto the Night Stalker. Waning Rift is there as well. Still with this Arcane Rune doing so much work for Bryle. He jaunts up to the north. Ice Armor, though, will keep Febby safe for now. Oh, the turn tick from range. Clairvoyance able to find the kill. Almost gets his all-important level 6 milestone out of it as well. Bryle going to turn and fight. Forev has his Black Hole available, but not in range to expend it. Meanwhile, QO rotating through does find a kill on the Jakiro. And they should have an Exorcism here. They do. Let's see if they choose to expend it. Jump forward, Bryle. Phase, John. Oh, to the low ground, and now he's in a world of hurt. As the Mask of Madness there for QO. One more right click needed. It'll get the kill. Recoil should expire. Charlie rotating through. Gets the swarm off onto QO. That'll continue to give him the vision. Meanwhile, CV dominating over in the mid lane. Does take out Dubu. Dubu finds a return kill. MP a little bit out by his lonesome, but now Febby rotating through. And we'll continue to put some punishment into this mid lane tower. Febby should have been scouted briefly by this ward. They're aware the Night Stalker is behind the DP, and he will show himself now in mid lane. That'll be Exorcism expiring here shortly.
Pretty back and forth fight there, but I think Immortals got the better of the trade, especially since they ended the streak on the, I believe it was a streak on the puck, and that puts Kyo in top net worth on the PA, who opts to get a Mask of Madness. I think the Mask of Madness just helps with their farm speed. You don't actually use it in fights all too often, since her spells are quite low cooldown. So you only use it when you feel like you're not casting anything, like that situation where she was chasing the puck.
Brax here, 12 minutes in, will finally be able to skill up his familiars. And with a little bit of time, bottom lane may put some significant damage into this tower. Meanwhile, on the river, though, Clairvoyant's going to be found out. He's going to be silenced up. Ice Path will catch onto Dubu. Macropyre, kind of just a zoning one as Forev rotating in. Gets the Malefice off onto Jabs. Febby chasing forward. Meanwhile, Clairvoyance behind enemy lines. QO actually going to get bursted down from the rotation from Bryle. Stick up for Clairvoyance, but he'll be brought down by the Crypt Swarm as MP rotating through. Dubu slows up Bryle. Bryle jaunts to the north. Night Stalker in the meantime was able to finish off Jakiro and still keeping himself alive and well. MP does not have a point in the silence for Bryle. And the Night Stalker will be able to TP out. He used the phase shift, however, but jaunts away from the Spirit Siphon and the TP out as well.
Bottom tower.
Yeah.
He did something similar to this last game. He's just using the amount of space that his team's giving him to help take this, take these safe lane towers from the enemy. Great awareness of what's going on, I suppose.
Forev yet to use the Black Hole. Again, you were mentioning it in the draft. Iceberg just much less cooldown dependent than their counterparts. Just ready to constantly fight here. They've been able to kite out Forev early on as he doesn't have any sort of initiation tool, opting for that early Midas. But they do get the trade in terms of tier 1s, and bottom lane QO going in on Brax. Has the Mask of Madness move speed, trying to take him out. Couple more right clicks needed. Need the familiar stun to save him, but it's too late from Brax. He will end up dropping to QO. Meanwhile, though, the rest of his lineup pushing in mid lane, so arguably space created by the Visage.
Definitely should have lived there, unless it was on cooldown. I'm not sure if it was on cooldown. I didn't check. But
Forev, Black Hole, he is going to pop it out onto the puck. Train Frost comes through. Can they kill off Bryle in time? They will with the bounce back. Forev, he's going to end up dropping. No, Charlie, he looks like he's going to get a double kill on the Weaver here, or at least contribute to 2, bringing down the Death Prophet. Now Febby turning tail and running. Clairvoyance does not have a hook shot. QO, though, looking perhaps to re-engage. Charlie looking for more, not going to find it on the Weaver. And when all is said and done, 2 for 1, but is a Black Hole expended as well for the Radiant side. So better trade for Iceberg in the way of metrics. They take net 1,000 experience and 500 gold, and they also have not to worry about the threat of the Black Hole for the next couple minutes.
And I believe they're going to try to use that to do damage to this tier on top, or try to go for a fight somewhere in the on the left side of the map.
Bryle opts for the early Veil, help them bursting down this PA, as well as the Death Prophet. Still no point in silence just yet for MP.
Clairvoyance up top.
EV is going to get caught out and brought down. Febby just fine to make it back to safety. Has an earn tick as well. Meanwhile, Coil expended in the river onto MP. He's veiled up and stunned by the familiar. Soul Assumption comes through. Doesn't quite kill him off, but the Dual Breath will more than likely bring him down. He gets the Spirit Siphon onto the Ancient. He needs help, though, from his team. Jaunt forward from Bryle. He's going to be able to bring down Dubu here. If he doesn't get fogged, one more right click will be able to do the job. But miraculously so, MP is able to survive. However, Immortals bleeding heroes here as Forev rotates in to be brought down as well. And Bryle double kill for the puck.
Was some never in the history of Dota stuff right there. I mean, it had to have been any other camp. You can't do that because Prowlers will have the lowest magic resist. Pretty cool play, but also a misplay by Brax. I think he threw his Soul Assumption before it was maxed out.
They'll posture up top lane and look to take out this final tier 1 away from the Radiant. They are in fighting shape though, despite not having Black Hole. They do have an Exorcism if the DPTP's in, but MP is actually walking back to Fountain at the moment. So it looks like they will just concede this tower. Dubu does have a Chain Frost near that level 8 mark as well, but looks like they'll be able to get the denial. No, they get the hook shot off onto Febby. They'll get the last hit. The Ice Path flies through as well. Chain Frost and the Frost Nova, though, will kill off CV. So Clairvoyance kind of kills himself to get the tower hit. Meanwhile, bottom lane, QO going down. So overall, they get a tower and a 1-for-1 trade where they get the more valuable hero for Iceberg's side. So really favorable trade for them across the map.
Yep, some value town right there.
Bryle very farmed on this puck. Has the blink and the veil here. 16.
Immortals, they have like the much stronger team fight by far. I think just by if they all just collectively press their R's minus the PA. Actually, if the PA also presses her R, they just win the team fight, right? And so Iceberg, they have to kind of split up the enemy team, and I think Brax is probably the one I'm noticing that seems to realize that the most, because Brax is the one that's been pushing up the lanes as Visage, particularly bottom lane, and forcing Immortals in these weird positions, and we saw them capitalize on that there. Like QO was like alone bottom, whereas the rest of the Immortal squad wanted to defend the tower top, and they kind of caught QO while he was TPing, or I think they caught him while he was grabbing a tower.
Illusion.
Clairvoyance, it is darkness, and they will be able to find him. They get the crippling fear off, but there's no real support inbound just yet, and he should be just fine to survive. Space created while his team pushes in the tier 2 bottom lane, and they'll take that with ease. Meanwhile, mid lane, Bryle feeling very confident with his blink. Will jaunt down to the south. Gets the coil off onto QO, kind of overstaying his welcome here in the mid lane, feeling like he can kill this PA. Could be in a lot of trouble. He's going to get Malefist up. Charlie going to rotate through from the south, and QO forced to blink up to the high ground. So for now, Bryle will be safe, but they're already putting in pressure on this tier 3 with the Visage Familiars and the Liquid Fire. In the meantime, the rest of the Radiant squad top lane is able to take out the tier 2, but they do lose half the HP of the tier 3 in the bottom lane. Bit of a cause for concern. Going to open up the possibility for split push for Brax even more so going forward.
Yeah, I think something underrated about Visage is just the ability to do building damage as Visage. But the thing about the birds now is they get the Gravekeeper's cloak when they're nearby, so it's not like the old Visage where like the birds were on the other side of the map than the Visage. The birds you actually want the birds to be relatively close to the Visage because they die way too easily and they give 100 gold each, and just don't want to do that. Immortals are making quick work of this Roshan. I don't think Iceberg are aware.
Ice armor up on the 2 cores. They'll do that pretty quickly. They will realize now what's happening, but a bit too late. Bryle gonna throw in the illusory orb, and he tries to jaunt forward. Does not get silenced though from MP. Will be able to blink back out, and the Aegis picked up by QO. Radiant gets the last hit as well. Clairvoyance though, they're looking to take a fight here. He's a little bit deep behind enemy lines with the Visage Familiars. They're doing a lot of damage, but the Midnight Pulse is there as well. Forev gonna survive for the time being, but the Soul Assumption finishes him off. Chain Frost not doing all that much work as it bounces up towards the high ground. QO blinks down to the east, though, and with the Void will take out another. Coil finds 3. Bryle jumping forward with the Waning Rift takes out the Night Stalker. Now QO, though, looking to fight forward, and with the silence from the DP, they bring down the Weaver. Not a kill that Iceberg wanted to give up there. And I don't know if it was miscommunication, but it seemed like Iceberg were all on the same page to take that fight. And Clairvoyance just a little bit deep. Perhaps didn't expect as many heroes as there were there. 3 heroes once he hooked in.
To be honest, that worked out way better than I thought it would. I mean, there's no way you run up a hill to fight the Immortal squad after they get the Aegis and they're already like completely up the hill, right? So Clairvoyance was a little bit of a crazy hook shot, but I mean, it didn't go too poorly for them. They traded 4 for 2, which is better than I thought it would.
QO, Aegis in hand, double damage as well. Feeling pretty strong.
Be a punching bag. JK.
Hide in the trees, they say. Ice armor up. QO takes a bit of damage. 1 big right click, though, is going to mean Bryle needs to turn.
Oh, press R.
And just the 1 more right click from QO, shredding through the Fairy Dragon. Now looking for more. He's going to find Brax with a Spectral Dagger, Stifling Dagger, excuse me. And it will crit Gravecleeper's Cloak, trying to get Brax back to base. QO going to catch vision of him in just a moment. Dubu rotating through as well with the slow. They get Brax. QO on the complete opposite side of the map. Tier 2 still standing. Finds himself a double kill. And that is value out of a double damage rune if I've ever seen it. They'll pop the Exorcism immediately and take out this Tier 2. Maybe do a little bit of damage to this Tier 3 as well. 10 seconds until the puck is up, jumping forward, looking for jabs. They get the Void off. Stifling Dagger is there as well, and a couple right clicks. QO dominating. Pretty much a triple kill. His 3rd in about 1 minute, and they'll get the Tier 3 tower almost immediately thereafter with the Exorcism. This is a full lane of racks just going down in the blink of an eye. They definitely can look to re-engage here, though, from Iceberg's side. But MP and QO proving too tanky. In the meantime, split push from Charlie will get a Tier 2 away from the Radiant, but really not something Immortals are concerning themselves with at this point. QO still holding on to this Aegis. Continuing to right-click into this Tier 3 MP. Exorcism expired. They need to consider backing here, and as backdoor protection kicks in for a moment, they will be able to bring down the tower. Now jump forward. Midnight Pulse, though, and they blow up Clairvoyance. They will get the Aegis in return, but that's no clockwork for 30 seconds. No buyback. Jump forward. Crippling Fear is going to find the Weaver, and now they're looking for a second lane of racks here with that hero down. Darkness is going to be popped. Febby has bodied up Bryle. Now they jump forward with the Malefice. 4Ev gets silence before he can get off the Black Hole, and Soul Assumption will finish off the Enigma. Now Immortals need to be careful not to overstay their welcome, but QO pops the PKB. He goes in, finds the Jakiro. Silence up on the Weaver. They'll find him as well. Weaver does have buyback and more than likely needs to expend it here. He's going to hold it for the time being. QO jumping forward onto jabs. They can't stun him up, though, although he is taking a lot of damage. The rest of his team, just looking at Objective Gaming, takes out the melee racks. QO now blinking back towards what he thinks is safety, but Bryle able to finish him off. Ice Path on the north side is not going to save the Jakiro from NP, but MP, he will just stand still and accept his fate. When all is said and done, still here, 23 minutes in. 2 melee racks is the full lane mid as well, secured by Immortals, and it is quite a few buybacks as well, or 2 buybacks, I should say, Jakiro and Weaver expended from the Iceberg side.
Yep. I mean, it's definitely worth it for Immortals, right? And I was going to comment on how it feels like Immortals followed the same sort of format of their gameplay from the last game. Like, win the early game, take as many towers as possible, get as much map control as possible, take the favorable fights, and then go Roshan and try to end the game, right? Except last game it kind of got interrupted because they got ratted, but this game it worked out a lot better for them, and it feels like around the same time they're taking these racks is just
Oh, the ward on the high ground going to allow the dagger to connect onto Brax. Smoke is there, though. Duo jumping up into, well, an Ice Path for the time being, but he still has BKB. He is, for the time being, going to be Glimmer caped up and now blinking downwards, where they will find Clairvoyance once again. It just doesn't feel like, despite having a puck and a Weaver, they are mobile enough to follow up on Clairvoyance. Meanwhile, Brax almost taken out while TPing away. He will survive for the time being. And on the south, the black hole is going to find the puck. Can they kill him off in time? They will. Nice follow-ups. Follow-up silence from Febby on the crippling fear there to kill off the puck. So ends up being a 2-for-1 trade for Immortals. Their bottom lane, though, pushing in, and they'll have to address that before pressing further.
Yeah, really well played by Immortals. I mean, that smoke was a little bit cool from Iceberg to prevent the PA. I don't know if that was like accidental or it was a timing thing, but the smoke prevented the PA from jumping the Vistage further. And Iceberg, it seemed like they had taken a good position on that hill, but I think at that point in Immortals, they're just so much further ahead that it's kind of hard for Iceberg to realistically win these fights, especially when your Weaver is sitting on only a Diffusal 2 and Treads, so yeah. This PA is much ahead.
Yeah, QO balling out of control right now. Almost
Iceberg
on the way
also,
to a next item.
Iceberg also don't have any ways to deal with the PA when the BKB is on.
Yeah.
And like they don't have anything to force the BKB either. Like Hero didn't even have to pop his BKB there. Iceberg never threw anything at him that warranted popping the BKB, so I think Iceberg have to pull off a hell of a team fight to defend their racks or win the next team fight.
Still 80 seconds, 85 until the black hole is up. We'll see if Immortals continue to press forward. They'll definitely take the tier 2 without contest. And it looks like they feel more than strong enough. BKBs on MP and QO at this point. And actually, Forev has one of his own as well. So he has a Blink BKB black hole. It's going to require a nicely angled hook shot. Now they're looking for the wrap with Charlie. Forev going to get the Malefice off. BKB popped by QO. Forev going to pop his as well. Looking for the black hole. Doesn't find anyone just yet. And the Visage Familiars will keep him back, but they finish off Clairvoyance and the Jakiro. Febby continuing to press forward as well. Is going to find the silence onto Charlie. Charlie's going to end up dropping here on the Weaver. That's no buyback available for the Weaver, and good game is called by the Iceberg squad. Meanwhile, down to the south, they will bring down one more. That's Brax's Visage as a final killing blow. Immortals looking like the MVP of old with their early game dominance and aggression thereafter, you know, taking over the map, as you were saying. They take a 2-0 victory here over Iceberg.
Yeah, it seemed like both teams were neck to neck for a really long time. Brax was doing a really good job of securing himself gold farm and towers in the bottom lane, but I think where the game really turned was after that Aegis for Immortals. So Immortals, they already had the stronger team fight, and then they became that much more unkillable with the Aegis and with that extra gold. And I think immediately after the Roshan take, there was like a really bad fight for Iceberg. And from then on, I think it was really hard for Iceberg to really team fight their way back into the game, given the drafts. And so Immortals just took it from there. So really well played.
Yeah, to your point, I mean, net worth and experience almost at parity, 20 minutes for the first 20 minutes of the game. And then just one blunder there. It seemed like they were all on the same page to take that fight after the Roche pit, but it remains to be seen what they thought was appealing about that fight. Either way, they lose it handily, and the game kind of gets out of control from there. So Immortals, they'll find themselves a 2-0 here. Hope you guys have been enjoying the cast thus far. We got one more series coming your way, barring any sort of postponement or moving of the match, but I think it's going to be Wheel versus Mines coming up next. So Mind's Eye, that is. Stick around for that final best of 3 of the day. MRP and Franz here. ESL One Hamburg Qualifiers, North America Division. Immortals with the 2-0 victory.